All right, you guys, happy Monday. So much to discuss. I think 2025 seems to be the year of strange alliances, people that you never thought that you would be listening to. You're suddenly listening to them. And I am certainly about to brighten your day by informing you about an unexpected group of people that have come to my aid and issued a public letter to Brigitte Macron. Speaking of strange bedfellows, I have to remark on that Hunter Biden interview. It was released a couple of weeks ago, and I have to say it was fantastic. I mean, I really enjoyed the discussion because apparently he is at that point of just letting everybody know that left or right, everything is fake and gay. And wow, Trump right now trending for all the wrong reasons. Again, he's going to deny aid to Americans if they decide they want to boycott Israel. How is that not treason? Let's find out. Welcome back to Candace. Okay, foremost, I want to say thank you to everyone who watched my sit down with Tucker Carlson. Almost 3 million views in the first 48 hours is just absolutely incredible. I am obviously a Tucker Carlson stan. He is one of the few people in media that I actually look up to, and that's just because of the way he lives his personal life, from being open about his past struggles with addiction. You know, he's spoken outwardly about years that he spent as an alcoholic, similar to Theo Von, people that are discussing these issues in a way it's so relatable. And also the way he lives his life now. I mean, behind the scenes, he's speaking to us about his life and how he doesn't engage much in what's happening on social media because he is the patriarch of his family. Like he sees himself as central to his family first and foremost, which means that he is spending time with them out in the woods in Maine. Anyway, you guys saw that we discussed, of course, what was on everybody's mind, the Brigitte Macron lawsuit, but really the importance of it in this exact moment, what it actually means to the world, because the media is lying about the contents of our Brigitte Macron series and what it's actually about. My husband really put it quite bluntly to me over the weekend when he said that this lawsuit proves that Emmanuel Macron has no real power. He has no power. He's utterly insignificant. And he's absolutely right. Think about it. We could have never in a million years would we have predicted or fathomed a world in which Vladimir Putin would sue a mother in America over her podcast series. Like none of us think that that is at all feasible. Why is that? The very idea of that makes us laugh. Because Putin, no matter how you feel about him, we recognize that he has real power in Russia. And Tucker asked the most obvious question when it comes to the Brigitte Macron story. The biggest thing that we're all recognizing that the media is avoiding is this pedo-criminal network that seems to surround this couple. It is strange. Emmanuel Macron has no real power, and everyone around them that has power and money seemingly gets involved in these sorts of scandals. This is what Tucker had to say about that.
Do you have any friends who are pedophiles?
None. They just can't stop finding friends that are somehow involved in these crazy pedophilia scandals.
Now, I feel like I've been everywhere, know a ton of people. I've never met anyone who's been accused of molesting his own child. That is so far out. I've known people who've done every bad thing, and I've never met anybody who's even been accused of that. Yeah. And yet you're describing two clusters of people, powerful people, famous people, where like tons of people in the orbit have been accused of or have in fact committed child molestation.
Like I said, that is exactly what they are avoiding with this ridiculous lawsuit. They don't want people to look further into the story. They thought that they could stop it somehow because they know that something quite sinister is happening in Paris right now, and the world is waking up to it. And it's not just what I revealed on the series. Like I said, we barely scratched the surface. So let's scratch it a bit more. I'll tell you guys another story today. Really, I just want to say at the top of this that anybody that is defending this couple who watched the series is someone that you should probably be looking at sideways. Anybody that's defending this couple, automatically, I would just put a question mark on that individual. So let me tell you this story about another fashion house, Saint Laurent. You guys know that fashion house, right? I'm feeling really bad for those of you who maybe have an Saint Laurent purse. I certainly had one, or some clothing from them, very expensive clothing, because you're probably going to want to throw it out after I tell you this story, okay? So that fashion house was founded in 1961 by two men. Their names, Pierre Berger and, well, of course, Yves Saint Laurent. The two of them were actually romantically involved with one another. And for a long time, actually, they were together until 1976 when they ostensibly split amicably. Now, Pierre Berger, I should tell you, one half of that duo was a major supporter of Emmanuel Macron. Okay. Now, he died back in 2017, but not before declaring publicly his unconditional support to the Macron couple. He declared himself ready to, and this is a direct quote, to find financial support and to help Emmanuel Macron by any means necessary. He went on to say, quote, "My support is obviously logical and natural. I've been supporting Emmanuel Macron for a long time. He and his wife are personal friends," end quote. Okay, so we got this Pierre Berger. He's one half of the Yves Saint Laurent duo, and he is a personal friend to Brigitte Macron and her husband. Now, that's certainly an interesting friendship, another interesting friendship for Emmanuel and Brigitte to have. Because back in 2012, there was a priest in the south of France who alerted the French police about cases of prostitutions of minors at this villa. The villa was called Villa Majorelle, and it was owned by Yves Saint Laurent and Pierre Berger. And it was also a villa in which Jack Lang, who is a former socialist minister, was a regular guest. Now, the accusations of what was going on at that villa, I'll tell you, Pierre Berger refuted them. But he said something rather ambiguous about the accusations. A few months before his death, he said this, quote, "Back then, morals were freer than they are today, especially in Morocco. Sexuality was unbridled, and we paid less attention to it. When they say that I was having orgies in Marrakesh with Jack Lang and little boys, I wouldn't even have wanted to because I don't like little boys." Okay? He says little boys. I want you to hang on to that. Right before he died, he says this. Okay. Fast forward, or actually it was happened at the same time, Fabrice Thomas, going to introduce you guys to this man named Fabrice Thomas, who would beg to differ kind of about what Pierre Berger was involved in Morocco. Now, Fabrice Thomas, I should tell you, he definitely knows Pierre Berger because he worked for him from 1984 until 1992. He was his sex slave and his chauffeur at time to him and Yves Saint Laurent. He took over for his father. I'm speaking now of Thomas's father, was also a chauffeur and also worked for this couple. And I should mention now that he and his father were incestuous, because that just has to happen. Fabrice Thomas and his father, his own father, they both worked for the couple, the fashion duo. The two of them were incestuous. He's admitted this in his book. Anyways, back to what Fabrice Thomas alleges about the fashion duo, because obviously when it comes to Emmanuel Macron and Brigitte, always somewhere in the story, there has to be this element of incest and pedophilia. I don't know why that is. Anyways, aside from having relations with his own father, Fabrice Thomas also, as I mentioned, had relations with Pierre Berger and Yves Saint Laurent. He says that he was their sex slave. And because I know that you are definitely not going to believe me, because why would you believe me? There's just so much pedophilia and incest in all these stories. Here is a spread in Vanity Fair: "Sex, Lies, and Passions. I was Yves Saint Laurent's lover." They sat down with him in 2013. Again, this is before Pierre Berger passed away. It's not like he disputed these allegations. And he sat down and gave this exclusive interview about his affair with Yves Saint Laurent and Pierre Berger. And in the end, Fabrice would actually go on to write a book. The book is entitled Saint Laurent and Me, An Intimate Story. In this book, he recounts how he first started with the affairs with Pierre Berger. And then Pierre Berger said, "Oh, you should also inspire Saint Laurent with more demented affairs." And in the book, he goes on to describe that they had these quote unquote fine parties that would have pleased the Marquis de Sade. And he details in that book how he would alternate between pleasing Yves Saint Laurent, who had a masochistic passion, and Pierre Berger, who was more sadistic. Anyways, in a later interview that he did with journalist Jack Themé was working on this book about, just pedophilia in France in general, how it's like a pedocriminal network that's controlling France. And he recounted to him the real reasons that the co-founders had a falling out. And I'm not going to get into the details of that because it is so positively disgusting what they were into sexually, words that I had never even been aware of, far past being sadistic and masochistic. Like they were into just, I don't even, like potty stuff, like really demented stuff. But the important part is elsewhere, when Fabrice Thomas is speaking to this journalist, he is unequivocal about Pierre Bourget's interests in Morocco. He said, and I quote, that Yves Saint Laurent told him over and over again that Pierre Bourget was banging kids in Morocco. He was very attracted to prepubescent girls, end quote. Okay, so it wasn't boys, it was girls, at least if you're going to believe his former sex slave. And again, he wrote this book and was giving interviews and about his relationships with this couple while Pierre Bourget was alive. So what are we supposed to make from that? How does this just keep happening? You guys, make it make sense that we are speaking about the president of France and his lady wife thing, and the people that surround them are just constantly involved in incestuous affairs, and they are going down to Morocco, and he puts the André Gide book on his desk when he takes this presidential portrait. And we know what André Gide was doing down in Morocco, and everyone who considers themselves a friend, okay, maybe not everyone, but way too many people who helped fund him into power and who count themselves among the friends of this powerful couple, just keep getting involved, getting their hands sticky in pedophile scandals, incest scandals, okay? And now they're really going to try to gaslight us, to make it seem like nothing is going on. This is crazy. No, it really is just all of my friends. It's not me. What are we even talking about? It's not me. It's just everyone around us is like this. Do you believe that? Do you accept that? What does it make you think about all of the people who are protecting this couple, the media that is protecting this couple? I think today was the first time in the Daily Mail that I saw them give a fair shake on what is happening regarding my lawsuit. Before then, it was just a full-blown public gaslighting, pretending that there was nothing to this story, that Brigitte Macron is the victim. Oh my gosh, could you imagine Brigitte, this poor woman who just fell in love with her student? Yeah, the problem here is Candace discussing this. Think about what that tells us about the world that we live in, about the people that rule over us. And that's not it, you guys. Now is probably a good time to tell you guys that during his presidency, during the first term, Emmanuel Macron's administration worked to have the age of consent lowered from 15 years of age to 13 years of age. Yeah, the age of consent in France is 15 years of age, unless you are an adult that has power over a child. Then it gets bumped up to 18 years of age, being the age of consent, right? So in a teacher-student relationship, traditionally, it's always been that the age of consent is 18, which makes Brigitte's relationship with Emmanuel Macron problematic no matter what, okay? And when they did this, when they tried to lower the age of consent to 13 years of age, they did it in a very perverse and manipulative way. They told the public that it was necessary to raise the age of consent with an adult to 13 years to protect children. So they packaged this as, we're protecting kids, so we're going to raise the age of consent to 13. They thought the public wouldn't notice this, that the public would just assume that maybe the age was lower and that they were actually raising it to 13, but it didn't work. The public did not fall for it. The public was understandably outraged at this attempt, this naked attempt to lower the age of consent to 13, and ultimately that measure failed. But I should mention that another aspect did not fail. This brings in Eric Dupond-Moretti, right? The lawyer that's saying, former Minister of Justice, and he was the Minister of Justice at that time, the one that's out there saying, Candace must be funded by Russia. Completely untrue. Trying to bring down the French Republic. Completely untrue. But while he was the Minister of Justice, he did have some success. He managed to have teachers removed from the category of persons that have authority over children. Okay, so to make that clear, the age of consent is 15 unless the adult has power over the child. Then it's bumped up to 18, right? But Eric Dupond-Moretti, as he was working for Macron as the Minister of Justice, got teachers removed from that definition. So yeah, 15 works if you're a teacher. Why would they do that? Why do you think that is? that Emmanuel Macron's administration wanted to lower the age of consent to 13? The people that are out there trying to say he was definitely 15, and I'm telling you he definitely wasn't 15 if you look at when he was actually in that play. Why do you think they're working to lower the age and trying to, I would say, didn't work, but try to trick the French population into believing that they were doing it to support children? Why would Eric Dupond-Moretti concern himself as a person who represented pedophiles and came up with the definition of happy incest? Why do you think that as the Minister of Justice, he went about making sure that teachers would not be included in the definition of having power over a child? That seems strange to you? Is the whole world crazy? Or is what's happening right now in France insane? And like I said, making it even more insane is the fact that for the most part, the mainstream media has protected this couple until we blew the story up and things seem to finally be changing. By the way, I missed this, but back when Brigitte pummeled Emmanuel Macron, New York Post ran a headline detailing more things about their early affair when he was young. This was the headline. It was Emmanuel and Brigitte Macron's scandal-plagued relationship from student-teacher affair to the shocking physical altercation. Buried in that article, not really buried, it's kind of them just recounting how they got together. It's so creepy, right? I somehow missed this in the story, or maybe I didn't remember it until the New York Post did this deep dive about how young he was as a teenager and how things went down in this relationship. But this is a direct quote, ready, from the article. It reads, Brigitte's family found out about the affair in the summer of 1994 after they caught the two of them sunbathing around the pool at the home of the teacher's aging parents, according to a biography of France's First Lady called Brigitte Macron, an unfettered woman. The relationship between the straight A student and his literature and drama teacher caused an uproar. Locals sent anonymous letters to the headquarters of the storied chocolate and macaron factory run by Brigitte's family, denouncing the affair. Neighbors, friends, and foes also spit on the doors of the future First Lady of France, according to Brune, who's the author of that book. She wrote, quote, from one day to the next, her friends with whom she was planning a vacation refused to speak to her, she writes. Oh, great. I'm glad that somebody had a conscience when this was going down and realized it was weird. What are you doing at your parents' house with your student? Look, actually, what is the context of this? And by the way, I'm pretty sure I recall that she wasn't actually, that was another like early on lie from the press that she was his literature teacher. In reality, I think he had signed up for one of her drama courses. But what are we talking about here, guys? What's going on? What are you doing poolside at your, would have been incredibly old parents' home? Who is okaying this? How is this allowed to happen? And then the parents have to move him out of town to avoid you? Again, any person that is defending this story, given everything that we have exposed, is someone that you probably should not be trusting. Because if we as a society cannot defend children, then we're not even a society. We're not even a society. In other news, I have some unexpected allies in France, and those allies are members of the LGBTQIA community. This really gave me a chuckle this weekend. Xavier Poussard tweeted this in an article published on the website of the French daily newspaper Libération, that's a left-leaning one. Louis-Georges Tin, the creator of World Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, and Transphobia, accuses Brigitte Macron of, quote, fueling the stigmatization of transgendered people, saying, quote, the judicial strategy chosen seems not only ineffective, as shown by the acquittals of Natasha Ray and Amandine Roy, but also counterproductive. By seeking to clear her name, Brigitte Macron is contributing, perhaps unwittingly, to reinforcing the idea that this rumor is inherently insulting and thus perpetuating the stigmatization of transgendered people. And it goes on to say, in this open letter, they write, we need you to recognize that this is not the way to go about the situation. They ask her to instead be like Hugh Jackman, who laughed when he was accused of being gay and said that he was an ally to gay people. They also cite Lady Gaga as an example and Michelle Obama as an example of how Brigitte Macron should be handling this rumor. They say just like considering it to be defamation. is inherently insulting, and it is further stigmatizing trans people in France. And they are asking her to stop this farce. Totally agree that this is a farce. I think actually you're right, because I believe that Brigitte is trans, and you are correct that her refusal to acknowledge this is definitely not helping the trans cause in any way. But it's going to get interesting. Obviously, I was speaking with Piers Morgan this morning about everything, and really saying to him, and I expect it'll be out later today, that you don't want to be on the side of the Macrons. You don't, because there is no way they're going to be able to wiggle themselves out of this. It is my opinion that this was merely a PR move, because there are so many lies that are in that lawsuit that they just wanted to get out in front of it so that people would believe that I had lied in the series, that I had said things that they alleged that I said that I most certainly did not say. I view it as a PR strategy. Or the other option is they truly are so deranged that they believe that I am being funded by Russia, or by, I think they said, Marion Maréchal, and by their enemies in France, their political enemies in France, which is an absolute nonsense. There's not even a shred of truth to that. They could be so far into a derangement that they think that by putting me through discovery, they're going to find messages or emails between me and their political opponents in France. They could be that wacky. People do start to believe their own conspiracies with time, especially when they've had so much control in their life. Like, they have managed to control the press, to control his image, to pretend that this guy who gets pulled up through Rothschild's bank and apparently doesn't even know what EBITDA means. You are so used to getting whatever you want and not having to work for it and not having to fight, that they could genuinely just be so shocked that they have to attribute it to something more powerful. It is something more powerful that is taking you guys down. It's the truth. That's it. That's what you're up against. You're just up against the truth. There's no tricks here. There's no funding here. This is just a mother who cares deeply about children being victimized, and the idea that that victimization could be systemic and a government could collude to cover it. I'm not even happy with Trump not issuing a statement now. I think he should be speaking out and saying that it's ridiculous that you would ever and try to infringe on the rights of Americans that are telling the truth. There's nothing in my series where I told a lie. I told about the orbit that surrounds you, right? We need people in positions of power that have the gumption to stand up for children. And where, if we don't have that, then it's going to take individuals like myself to do it, and the people that have supported this series. And in many ways, they supported it because they've now made the series more viral than it's ever been. So we will pause there before I get to this other major disappointment as it pertains to Trump. I first want to remind you guys about GoldCo, because over the past 4 years, we've all seen some tough times. We've had skyrocketing inflation, surging national debt, market volatility, never-ending wars, bank failures, and our financial systems simply cannot be trusted. That's why Americans are turning to gold, because gold is real, it's tangible, it's held value for thousands of years. Unlike the stock market or currency, gold doesn't vanish when politicians make bad decisions, which, let's be honest, is happening a lot these days. GoldCo are the experts that I trust to help you protect your retirement with precious metals. So whether you're worried about inflation, government spending, or you just want peace of mind, GoldCo can make that easy for you. Here's what you need to do. Just go to CandaceLikesGold.com to get your free 2025 gold and silver kit, and you'll learn how you can get up to 10% in free silver. So don't wait for the next crisis. Protect your future today. Go to CandaceLikesGold.com. Again, CandaceLikesGold.com. Also telling you guys about Just Thrive, because the biggest health secret that is not talked about is that everything starts in your gut. Every day, your gut is fighting a silent war against processed foods, work stress, toxins in the air that you're breathing. When your gut is in trouble, your whole body will feel it. Most probiotics don't work. 99% of the traditional brands die in your stomach acid before they even reach your gut. That's what makes Just Thrive's spore-based probiotic completely different. Just Thrive is the only probiotic that is clinically proven to arrive 100% alive in your gut. It does something that no other probiotic can. It turns your gut into an antioxidant factory, creating protective compounds exactly where you need them most. That means better digestion, healthy immunity, more energy, and easy weight management. You can take Just Thrive probiotic in the form of a capsule or a berry-flavored gummy. From their award-winning probiotic to their full line of gut, immune, and brain health supplements, Just Thrive has been fighting to make Americans healthy again with science-backed solutions that you can trust. To join the gut health revolution and take control of your health today, visit JustThrive.com and you'll save 20% with promo code Candace. See the difference for yourself, or you will get a full product refund, no questions asked. Take control today with Just Thrive. Again, JustThriveHealth.com, promo code Candace. Okay, so this is trending right now on X. And I looked into the story and it seems to be true, making sure I wasn't falling for fake news. As Trump has coined the phrase, we have been seeing this anyways. Of course, last Thursday we did an episode and I have said Trump is very clearly high on Israel. This has like now become a drug that's ruining his life and it's ruining his legacy. And it just seems that he can't do anything. It's rendered him completely impotent. Israel has rendered him impotent, as it has done many of our politicians. But this is definitively a bridge too far. People are referring to this as treason, and that would, I think, be the accurate term to describe what is happening here. He is going to deny Americans in need disaster funding if he finds out that that city or state that is in need is boycotting Israel. Okay, so we're talking about $1.9 billion in state disaster funds that could potentially be denied if you are a U.S. state or a city that is boycotting Israeli companies. You're just going to be denied federal aid for a natural disaster. Okay, this is for natural disaster preparedness. Obviously, there's money that comes down from FEMA, and that is what is happening. The Federal Emergency Management Agency just stated in a grant notice that was posted on Friday that states have to follow terms and conditions to receive federal funding. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, sure. Maybe you're going to say the rule here is that you can't be housing migrants, right? Housing illegals. You can't be doing something that flies in the face of the federal government. That would make sense. But to say specifically that you can't decide that you're not going to maybe invest in Israeli companies or Israeli technology. This has nothing to do with our company. It's our country. It's an Israeli company. And you might say as a state that we're not going to spend money working with Israel because they're committing a genocide in broad daylight. You might say, actually, morally, we think it is wrong for us to in any way engage with Israel because we are watching them starve children daily. Okay? No one outside of ultra Zionist psychopaths is denying that that's happening anymore. Even people that took forever to get on board and say it was genocide are now saying, okay, yeah, it looks like they may be committing a genocide and they're just going to take over Gaza and turn it into a beach town. Okay. So Trump is setting this requirement. Trump's administration is setting this requirement. And like I said, it applies to at least $1.9 billion of federal aid that states rely on to cover search and rescue equipment, emergency manager salaries. Let's say you get hit by a hurricane, money that is for the backup power systems, among other expenses. And Trump is saying, yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you screaming. I hear that that's a hurricane. And you know, maybe it's wiped away your entire family, your entire house. But do you support Israel? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you boycott Israeli tech? Yeah, we're not going to be able to give you this money. Your family doesn't qualify anymore. And this is building upon what they already said back in April, that boycotting Israel is going to be something that they're willing to punish. And this is not the Trump administration idea, by the way. We have showed you the clip of Bibi Netanyahu saying that years ago, that they are already passing laws in the United States that any person that boycotts Israel is going to suffer. Like, he is on camera saying that years ago. And now the reality is that 34 states have now passed anti-BDS laws. Now, what are BDS laws? It started as a campus movement. People that were saying that within my capacity, I am going to boycott and divest from Israel. That's your right as an American. Okay, if you decide as an American that you don't want to spend your dollars on anything, right? You could say, I want to boycott Monsanto. I'm not going to spend my money on any products or any companies that are in bed with Monsanto. You could say, I want to boycott cereal, right? I've decided that I don't like Kellogg's, and so I'm going to boycott Kellogg's, and I'm going to tell other people that they should. But that is your right as an American, if that's what you want to do, okay? Now, all of a sudden, Trump is taking the extraordinary position that actually it's not your right to do that when it comes to Israel. Of course, you could, if you want today, boycott American companies. You could say, I don't want to support American companies. There would be no problem. But Israel? Yeah, no, they're coming in now. They're saying you can't do that. Why is that? Because America is not a sovereign nation. And if you are under any illusions that America is a sovereign nation, you need to wake up. And if you are still operating under some delusion, as many of us were in the past, that this has been a relationship born and we are allies because we believe in freedom and democracy, hopefully what is happening in Gaza has woken you up to the fact that that was nothing but propaganda, which began in our classrooms, okay? They have been propagandizing us in the classrooms. As we get into this Jeffrey Epstein story, for those of you guys that are invested in this series, and we will continue this on Monday, you start to realize that they had an interest in American textbooks. Far be it, if you guys are watching my podcast, if you are falling under the belief that, oh, well, the Rockefellers were controlling the textbooks. Yeah, the Rockefellers got blackmailed by the Mossad, okay? That's the truth. Reuven Shiloah, who was the first leader of the Mossad, blackmailed the Rockefellers, okay? And that's how this nation has accrued so much power across the world, through a very systemic process of blackmail. Hence, Trump gaslighting us about Jeffrey Epstein, because everybody is implicated, okay? These are blackmail rings. This is not a country that is being driven because of their morals. This is a religious country, the home of the Jews. Thou shalt not kill. Anybody? Thou shalt not kill. They are mass murdering women and children every single day. So the question becomes, what was this nation actually built upon? And hopefully you guys are listening to Daryl Cooper's series, speaking about the early movement of Zionism, speaking about the truth about Theodore Herzl. Everything you have been told is a lie, okay? Everything, virtually everything you have been told, whether your pastors are lying to you about it, people are blackmailed, and they are lying. But for Trump, this is masked down, okay? He is now rendered an impotent leader. If you would penalize people that are in need, right? If you would harm American citizens so that you can serve Israel's interests, that's an act of treason, because Israel is no friend to the United States. Israel is the reason that we have all the problems that we have in the Middle East. That's the reality. And it's got nothing to do with Jewish Americans. So you guys better wake up real quick to what you are being forced to support. Because like I said, they similarly have propagandized Jewish Americans, like I said on Tucker's show. It was a masked down moment when the ADL said that they began that program. Jonathan Greenblatt caught on the hot mic saying that they began the birthright program because they wanted to what? Arbitrarily attach Jewish Americans to this made-up country in the Middle East that believes in democracy but doesn't practice it. Yeah. So major mask down moment for Trump. I do not understand how any person can pretend that it's not. He is telling you he is not America first. I don't even know if he's America second at this point. It's all so ridiculous and disappointing. Just honestly embarrassing. It is so embarrassing. And I'm interested to see what J.D. Vance has to say about this. How could we have so many people that are this fearful to stand up to this nation? I'll leave you on that note. Anyways, on the flip side of this, I was totally surprised. Wanted to see if you guys caught this. Hunter Biden, okay? He sat down for an interview with podcaster Andrew Callahan, and it's called Channel 5 with Andrew Callahan. I was very shocked at how much I was enjoying the interview, not because Hunter Biden, which I'm going to show you, he totally does not want to answer questions about his laptop, and you can sense that he's lying. The rest of the interview, he just seems like he's fed up with everything. And this interview could have been entitled Everything is Fake and Gay. He was honest about his crack addiction in a way that was just unique. It was giving Charlie Sheen. I'll let you watch a couple of the clips here and see what you think about it. This is him discussing crack cocaine. Take a listen.
Does crack cocaine make you act any differently? No. Is it safer than alcohol? Probably. People think of crack as being dirty. It's the exact opposite. When you make crack, what you're doing is you're burning off all the impurities so that it combines with the sodium bicarbonate, which makes it smokable. That's all. You know, all of these actors and, you know, people in the past that talked about they had a problem with cocaine and freebasing. They were smoking crack. You know, I think one of the reasons that they believe that smoking cigarettes is so addictive is because it combines three really important things. It's habit forming, There's an oral fixation, and there is a ritual combined with it. And so the idea of hand to mouth is a habit and a fixation that we learn very early, even as children. With a pacifier, with a spoon, with your thumb, even to breastfeeding. Okay, so really, I don't want to get into the psychology of it because I'm no expert, but I do know this, is that you combine with that ignition, combustion, and then you combine the ritual. You have your cigarette in the morning, you have your cigarette when you get out of the car, you have your cigarette with your coffee. Crack is that on steroids.
It's very honest about his addiction and how he got addicted to crack. And I just was not expecting this at all. But is where it gets even more interesting. When he started ranting about George Clooney, I realized that the version of events that he was giving us was absolutely the truth. Like George Clooney kind of presented himself as this hero when he came out, you'll recall, and said, oh, you know what? I just saw my good friend Joe Biden and I realized that his memory issues have gone too far and he needs to step down. And this kind of became the reason, kind of this like open letter. I think he wrote it in the New York Times. This kind of became the reason that they then installed Kamala, right? This is what Hunter Biden says about that moment of what actually happened behind the scenes. Take a listen.
Here's what he said. He said that the president needed to be introduced to him at a fundraiser that he was ostensibly the host of. So usually before or after an event, the president will line up, people will come, and they'll take a picture with him, and he'll say hello. And there's a person that stands next to the president, and they say, Mr. President, George Clooney and Julia Roberts. Hey, George, Julia, how you doing? Mr. President, Andrew Callahan. And you may have been filming him all day, and he may know George for the last 30 years, and he may have met him 15 times. But the guy on his shoulder, who's usually a military officer, has one job, to say the name of the person that's walking up. That's it. And George Clooney is now, to rationalize why he attempted to cut the knees out from a sitting president, the most successful president in the history of his party in his life in terms of the legislative policies that he wanted to see passed, had to justify somehow him going above and beyond to write an op-ed in the New York Times to try to force the sitting president of the United States out of the race. And so he makes up this story about how the president had to be introduced to him.
Oh, like he didn't recognize George Clooney?
Exactly.
Because of like dementia or something?
Oh, I don't know. Well, that's the implication, right?
Yeah. Like he's forgetting things.
Yeah. And by the way, I remember this story. Is that George Clooney wasn't going to show up to that fundraiser, and he was bitching to the White House staff and to the people, the senior staff, is that he was so angry that the president would criticize the arrest warrant that was executed for Netanyahu. And the president, when asked, said, would they arrest Netanyahu if he came to the United States? And he said he would not have the authority, nor would he do that. And I guess George Clooney's wife was the principal architect of that arrest, of that warrant for Netanyahu. And I don't judge that in one way or another, was the right thing or not. He was very, very angry that my dad did not, I guess, like, pay homage to her or something. I understand, defending your wife or something, but I mean, I saw the text messages that he wrote, reams of text messages, like how dare he do that? And he kept promising that he was going to embarrass the president and pull out of the fundraiser.
Yeah, so that's the truth. You can take that right to the bank because that makes perfect sense. Everyone, when George Clooney wrote this op-ed, was like, oh, really? You just started noticing that, like, Joe Biden isn't totally with it? And I can also tell you 100% because I've been to many of these events, especially during Trump's first term, that is correct. There's a person behind saying, this is so-and-so and so-and-so, and these are the highest donors, and you get a picture, and it's like all 10 seconds, and you sit down. And so this story makes so much more sense, especially in the context of me getting, you think you know what's happening in the public, but then behind the scenes, like someone's getting a phone call, like, could you please stop talking about Brigitte's penis? It makes much more sense that George Clooney's wife was upset. She was behind, and by the way, rightfully behind, saying that the ICC should arrest Bibi Netanyahu for war crimes. And she was probably pressuring Joe Biden and her husband, obviously, to make Joe Biden acknowledge that if Bibi Netanyahu arrived on soil, they would arrest him. And then the second that Joe Biden didn't say, I will acquiesce to that, George Clooney threw a temper tantrum because his wife was likely throwing a temper tantrum. Like, this is the real world of politics. What you are told, what the New York Times is telling you, everything is fake and gay. And then what happens in the background is somebody's wife is pissed off And so George Clooney says, I'm writing an op-ed and I'm taking you out because you didn't do what I said. There's something really not okay about that. First and foremost, like obviously Joe Biden did have dementia and he should have stepped aside anyways. But to pretend like you're doing morally the right thing when in reality your wife's angry, I think that's a bit ridiculous. By the way, this is what he had to say about Jake Tapper. Take a listen.
If you did see Jake Tapper, would it be time for a little bit of a schoolyard fight?
Look, man, I mean this sincerely. It's almost not worth commenting on it because he's completely irrelevant. And I really mean this. Who's Jake Tapper's audience? Jake Tapper?
My mom or something? I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
For real though. I don't even think it's your mom anymore.
No.
By the numbers, what influence does Jake Tapper have over anything? He has the smallest audience on cable news. And beyond that, I think that the book is right now on the Amazon that he put out. I mean, his ratings just went to after he put the book out. You know, they did a 2-week infomercial for it. I mean, it was such a money grab, such a disservice to everybody that he serves with, that the journalism that he purports to take part in. And he's very personal. He has a real problem with me. He does this whole rant about how I was the acting chief of staff and that I took control of the White House and I orchestrated this cover-up of my dad's health and well-being at the same time as who would ever trust a person like me that was a crack addict that got their sister-in-law addicted to crack cocaine, things that he has no notion of or idea about in personal, you know, like, Jesus Christ, Jake, grow the up. Jake decided I could basically do this infomercial. I'm going to pick up the entire right wing because they're going to want to read this book, and they're going to do exactly why they're not reading it. They're not buying the book, and they're criticizing them. But what they're also doing is they started a congressional investigation, and now I have to deal with another subpoena because Jake Tapper has decided that he's through anonymous sources going to create some conspiracy of a crime. And here we are. To what end? To what end? As the world falls apart around us, why do I have to spend my time worrying or thinking about or even talking about somebody as irrelevant as Jake Tapper?
Put it on a t-shirt. As the world falls apart. Why, Jake Tapper? Why? I have to co-sign that. Absolutely. Because I can't stand Jake Tapper. And he's so fake. And he's so obviously a person that works for the state. And his entire audience is fake. And that's why him sitting up there defending Brigitte Macron, not even doing his journalistic, he's supposed to be a journalist, right? Looking into the story, presenting another side, asking a difficult question. Instead, he just goes, well, Candace is deranged. And so I believe you, Tom Claire. Got to co-sign that. Here's what he had to say about Elon Musk.
If you did see Jake Tapper, would it be time for a little bit of a...
Oh, maybe that was the wrong clip. That's totally fine. Do you have the Elon Musk clip? No worries. We can also pull the Biden speaking about his laptop, because I would say it was a really good interview. But the one thing that I did not like was him talking about his laptop. His whole demeanor changed. You could see that he wasn't being honest when he discussed the laptop. And that, of course, is a very important story, because the main point about the Hunter Biden laptop is that the deep state colluded to say that it was Russian, that it was a fake, and that Russia was putting this out there, that was Russian propaganda. And obviously we know that is not real. And that is problematic, because it shows just how much power the Bidens had, that they got the media to say that it was Russian disinformation. Here's Hunter Biden. You can, again, see his demeanor change. Take a listen.
By whatever means, they got my digital footprint going back decades. Over 20 years. Again, I ask anybody, you're steeped in this, and this isn't a challenging question, but it kind of makes my point. What does my laptop prove about criminality or anything, other than what I had already readily admitted to, completely transparent about, is my drug addiction?
Well, I'm trying to remember specifically what the most radical conspiracies that I heard. I think that a lot of people are concerned or curious about various international business dealings.
So I served on the board of well over a dozen different entities, way more than that, including major global organizations. I've been investigated by the House Oversight Committee, the House Ways and Means Committee, the House Judiciary Committee, the Senate Judiciary Committee, the Senate Oversight Committee, and I have been investigated by Maine Justice, the U.S. Attorney in Pittsburgh, the U.S. Attorney in Philadelphia, the U.S. Attorney in District of Columbia, the U.S. Attorney in Los Angeles, the U.S. Attorney of Delaware, the Special Counsel's Office. Not one single person has ever accused me of a crime based upon anything that was in or discovered as it relates to my laptop.
Yeah, podcaster definitely could have pushed back there, talking about his dealings in Ukraine, why he was on the board of Burisma, what his expertise is there. Again, influence peddling while your father is in office is problematic. And I think that podcaster just didn't have the courage to ask him about that. But overall, very interesting interview. And you could kind of sense that he's tired of the fake and the gayness, 90s fake and gayness that's happening right now in politics, a story that we're constantly being told versus what's happening in the background. I would be very keen to sit down with Hunter Biden. I will say that. I would like to sit down with Hunter Biden and ask him some questions. Definitely not going to hold his hand over the parts about the laptop because that was ridiculous. And the deep state gaslighting Americans was absolutely ridiculous about the laptop when he could have just owned it and said that it was his and discussed his addiction. But that's not what they did. And we can't just forget that. But Hunter Biden, if you are watching, I will definitely like to interview you. Oh, you said you have the clip now? Okay, lastly, here's what he had to say about Elon Musk.
I can't even believe sometimes I'm having this discussion with anybody. How do you think that we are reborn every generation? How do you think that we attract the smartest people in the world to the United States of America? Through immigration. I mean, you sit here and, I mean, like, just think about it. You got some who's made over, what, $251 billion being a United States citizen that got here and stayed here illegally before he got his citizenship, sitting here lecturing us on who we should allow into the United States of America and giving us a Heil Hitler along the way. Are you kidding me?
It's a funny interview. I'm not the biggest fan of Elon Musk. I find him to be very performative, and I also think he's been disingenuous and not honest about his relationships with the deep state and with the government, and kind of presents himself as a hero when he behaves a lot like a petulant child. So yeah, a lot of things, too many points, I would say, that I agree with Hunter Biden on. Definitely not the way that he's lived his life, but if he's coming to a point where he's going to be honest about it, sign me up. All right, you guys, before I get into some of your comments regarding today's episode, first I want to remind you guys about PureTalk, because how many times have you heard the phrase, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? That's great advice for most things, but not so much for a cell phone. Over time, a phone's battery life obviously fades, the processor can't keep up, and it's been dropped usually one too many times by then. Fortunately, thanks to PureTalk, your cell phone is something that you can replace. When you switch to PureTalk this month, they will give you a Samsung Galaxy A36 for free with a $35 qualifying plan, just $35 a month for talk, text, data, and a free Samsung phone with scratch-resistant Gorilla Glass and a battery that lasts all day, all on America's most dependable 5G network. Supporting companies like PureTalk is a win-win. You win by cutting your cell phone bill in half. They win by hiring more Americans and helping more veterans. Make the switch in as little as 10 minutes. Go to puretalk.com/Owens to get your free phone today. Again, that's puretalk.com/Owens to switch to my wireless company and America's wireless company. Also remind you guys about American Financing, because if you could delay your next 2 mortgage payments, why wouldn't you? Imagine putting those 2 payments in your pocket and finally getting a little breathing room. It's possible when you call American Financing today. If you're feeling stretched by everyday expenses with groceries, gas, and bills piling up, then you should know that you're not alone. Most Americans are putting these expenses on credit cards, and there doesn't seem to be a way out. American Financing can show you how to use your home's equity to pay off that debt. You need to call them, American Financing, today before you get to a point where you can't make those payments. Their salary-based mortgage consultants are helping homeowners just like you restructure their loans and consolidate debt, all without upfront fees, and their customers are saving an average of $800 a month. That's like a $10,000 raise. It's fast, it's simple, and it could save your budget this summer. So don't wait any longer. Call American Financing today, 800-795-1210. Again, that's 800-795-1210. Or you can visit americanfinancing.net/Owens, americanfinancing.net/Owens. All right, you guys, what is on your mind? Let's see. Starting with Sarah D. She writes, please do a deep dive explanation informing the public on how it is that we can vote these traitors out of Congress in 2026. I mean, dates to look out for, etc. I think they make it hard to keep up with on purpose. I love you back. Sarah, honestly, we do need a person that is focused on just that. And it really just needs to be, how do we vote AIPAC out, right? All of these candidates. I mean, the fact that Trump got behind Randy Fine, now even AIPAC has removed Randy Fine from the website. Remember, he was just like a totally murderous person running for Congress, but he was pro-Israel, and he was like, yeah, who cares if we kill children? He's just so openly genocidal that it's amazing that Trump did not balk and just, got behind him because what? Miriam Adelson told him to. That's it. payment has come due. He took $100 million from Miriam Adelson. Her family brought us methadone and gambling. That's how she's made her fortune. And that is what happens. People choose money. And it's I don't think it ends well for any of these people who choose money over their values that would allow children to die like this. I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want that karma to be on my children. Do you know what I mean? Like, to look the other way when somebody else's children is dying, are dying, and to pretend that it's not happening, and then to help the people that are doing it. I wouldn't want to risk my children inheriting the karma of that. But I guess Trump feels differently. Marzi writes, Catholic in Canada church raided by police during worship services held by Sean Few. The government didn't like the message. Cops forced their way in. Antifa threw smoke bombs inside the church, and the priests got blamed. They were fined $2,500. My producer is putting a note that apparently, yes, there is a church in Montreal, Quebec, that has been slapped with a $2,500 fine for hosting a church service featuring an activist, a missionary, and a worship leader whose views on sexuality, gender, and President Donald Trump have drawn the ire of authorities. Yeah, there's been a lot going on with Canada, a lot of things going on, particularly as it pertains to the Catholic Church. They lied about the Catholic Church and allowed many of the Catholic churches to be burned down. And yeah, people should actually look into that. It's been kind of crazy. They told that whole story about how they dug up kids. I think it was maybe where nuns were. I have to jog my memory on that, but I know that they told this lie so that people could be outraged and go around burning Catholic churches, and then it ended up being completely fake and made up. So yeah, there's always a war on Christianity throughout the world. Tanya Robb writes, God bless and protect you. Candace is a superhero for the oppressed and innocent. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I don't feel like a superhero. I feel frustrated that this stuff is so easy to just be moral, to protect children, and that it's incumbent upon us as adults to do that. And for whatever reason, people struggle. Like somehow money is just so tempting that you will literally just look the other way. Q writes, hi, Candace, would you ever consider writing a history textbook for the homeschool curriculum? I probably would not. I don't think that my skills would be best utilized there. But once I figure out what I'm using as a guide for my children, I will definitely share it upon my platform. Brian writes, a small thank you to Candace, George, and the crew. I hope that the lawsuit makes it to discovery. The pedophiles should be called out. Yeah, I will be hitting back very hard when we file a response to this and naming names when it comes to this orbit, as they pretend that they're just totally confused as to why anybody would suggest that there's a pedocriminal orbit around them, as if people can't read the book Becoming Brigitte and come to the conclusion. They don't dispute any of the names that we've brought up, or they don't dispute any of the pedophile scandals that those people have been involved in, or like Eric Dupont-Moretti, the pedophiles that they have defended. They don't dispute any of that. They just go, oh, it's so egregious that someone would define this as an orbit. How dare they say it's an orbit? Yeah, people that are around you, that's an orbit. It's ridiculous. Jackson writes, French peds coming for our freedom of speech, Israel being handed tax dollars to blow up kids while Americans die in natural disasters for speaking out. I don't recognize my nation anymore. I understand that. I get that. And like I said, there is definitely a piece of this that is so frustrating, because it seems so easy to do the right thing, and we are learning over and over again it's not. But you have to make sure that you take time to reflect on all the very many successes. You know, the people that they've tried to take out, like me, like Tucker, who have been telling the truth, who have been shining a light on these stories and not giving up, you know, despite having tons of people, oh, look the other way. Oh, don't pay attention. Oh, she's funded. Eric Dupont-Moretti, she's funded by Russia, because they are providing cover for these sorts of people. And what's happening is the exact opposite reaction globally. People are now more interested in this Becoming Brigitte series than ever before. And it was already a huge series. So there is goodness that is happening as well. And it's good to reflect upon that. Like, take a moment and start saying what you're grateful for. I do that in my prayers. I start by saying what I'm grateful for. And if you think and you're conscious about it and you keep saying, grateful for this and I'm grateful for that, you start to realize that there's actually a lot to be grateful for. It's a good exercise. Good mental exercise. Sister Bethy writes, okay, someone has threatened Trump to say this. That's not Trump. Come on, Candace. You and I fought for Trump. You know he is being threatened. What do you mean, come on, Candace? I'm on board. Yeah, something has gone awry with the Trump administration. He's surrounded by Zionists who absolutely hate him, who are pulling him away from his base, and he is doing whatever. He is gaslighting the public. He is pretending that we don't know who and what Jeffrey Epstein is working for. You don't have to come on, Candace. I'm on. I am definitely on it, and I have been very vocal, and I will only become increasingly more vocal as it becomes more absurd and more disadvantageous to the American people. Andre Mack writes, the truth about Brigitte will come out and Hollywood will be forced to make a movie about it. Cast the movie. Mine is Ryan and Hugh as the Macrons. What I would say to you, Andre Mack, is that if you read Hollywood Babylon, you would know that they are definitely not going to make a movie about it because Hollywood was established, if you read Hollywood Babylon, by pedophiles. They were importing pedophiles into movies, onto sets. We've learned this in my book club. By the way, book club is tomorrow as we begin and embark on the assault on truth, another piece of this puzzle of what was going on in Paris, because Freud studied under Charcot in Paris, and the things that he saw that was being done to children and that he then moved to cover up is another piece of this story. It is a very difficult read. I forgot to remind you guys, I would say read the first 60 pages. I think the book is about 200 and something pages. Read the first 60 pages by tomorrow, and we will embark on this journey to understand what has happened and how it's related to what is going on today. Haley Steely writes, I was an atheist dem 2 years ago. This week, I will begin RCIA classes, I think you mean, classes to get baptized in the Catholic Church for Easter. Congratulations, Haley. That is amazing. I love hearing that. You wrote, I wouldn't have sought truth without you speaking on your journey. Christ is King. Thank you, Candace. Indeed, Christ is King. Haley, that is absolutely amazing. And yeah, it's hard not to recognize that this is a war on Christ, that they have deluded us into believing that we should all be atheists and that we are our own power brokers and the power is within us. But in reality, there's no such thing as an atheist. I believe that fully in my heart. Actually, what we have are people that have been initiated into a religion. They don't realize it, they don't recognize it as a religion, but it is a religion because they need you stupid and dumb and not believing in spirituality. They need you behaving like muggles as they spiritually corrupt you. And look around, that's what we're seeing, spiritual corruption. So I'm very happy for you. Congratulations. That is a very big deal. Anyways, you guys, like I said, we have book club tomorrow. We begin the assault on truth. If you have not signed up, you can do so. Go to CandaceOwens.com. I think we might have a few copies of the book left. We may not. I'm not entirely sure. But it's an incredible book. And it is, we have copies left, is going to awaken you to things that have been going on in this world for a long time that they are trying to wipe from history. And the fact that Sigmund Freud was ever celebrated in America should terrify you. But I'll terrify you more on that tomorrow.